fellow oddities, and welcome to a new video. Today, in honor of it being election day, I thought I'd make a video discussing politics. Now hold on, I'm not talking about US or even world politics. I care far too much about my well-being to do that. Instead, we'll be discussing the politics of Outworld and who would win if it had a democratic-style election between its main two emperors, Shao Kahn and Kotal Kahn. Of course, there have been other rulers of Outworld, but for one reason or another, I don't think any of them would fit this format of video. Sindel from MK1 governed a completely different Outworld to Shao and Kotal, being in a different timeline. Same thing with MK1 Melina. MKX Melina ruled for a good 5 minutes, and the same thing is true for Katana in MK11. And finally, Onaga. I know some of you might be upset that I'm leaving out the OG, but we've never had a game set during his rule, so we really have no idea what it would have been like, at least compared to how much we know about Shao and Kotal. So, how is this going to work? Well, I'm going to go through some political issues, some more based in the world of Mortal Kombat, some more based in our real world, but we can assume also happen in Outworld, and I'm going to be talking about these two rulers and their differing opinions, differing stances, and approaches to these issues, and the pros and cons of each. And Mortal Kombat obviously doesn't delve too deep into politics, so I'm sorry that I won't be able to tell you Outworld's inflation rates or the effect that global warming has on its environment, but there are still certain things we can infer and headcanon based on what we've seen. This is also pretending that Shao and Kotal, specifically Shao, actually care about upholding the realm and tackling these issues, because in all likelihood he doesn't. So, let's get to the discussion, starting with some background about our candidates. The first of our two candidates is Shao Kahn, a ruthless dictator, conqueror, and expansionist. He aims to merge all the realms into Outworld by force to create the most powerful realm of them all, and also bring back the One Being, which would just destroy everything. So, yeah, not the greatest game plan. He is an immortal, though in recent times it's been unclear if he's a god or a demigod. He was definitely a god in the original timeline, but the second timeline has kind of fuzzied things up a bit, but regardless, he is very powerful. And he poisoned Onaga to become Khan. He rose through the ranks to become Onaga's second in command. He knew he couldn't take him in a one-on-one fight, at least at the time, and so he poisoned him to become Outworld's second ever emperor. Then we have Kotal. He's a more thoughtful diplomat and aims to shut down Shao's conquests and efforts to merge the realms and create a more independent, self-sufficient Outworld. He's Osh-Tech, one of the species whose realm was taken over by Shao, so he's seen firsthand the effect that Shao's Outworld has had on his people. And he overthrew the rightful heir to the throne, Melina, in order to become Khan during Outworld's civil war. And that's going to do it for just some general background. Now let's get into some political issues and how these two plan to tackle them, starting with quite possibly the most exciting topic I have ever discussed on this channel: the economy. Shao Kahn would implement a war-based economy. What this means is the economy is based around creating resources to be used in war efforts. So basically your resources and wealth is put into creating better weaponry and funding a stronger army, which helps in Shao's conquest to merge the realms. Some pros of this are that each time a realm is merged, there is expansion and a boom in the economy. Basically, this economy is a beneficial relationship where resources are put into war, and when those wars are won and a realm is merged, Outworld expands and receives that realm's resources. And this growth is immediate, rapid, and noticeable. It's not like there will just be slight shifts over long periods of time. There will be large boosts and considerable advancements. The armies and military, obviously with the entire economy being centered around them, are very powerful. We'll get to that a bit more later though. Then we have some cons. This economy is very heavily reliant on wars and tournaments being won. Thankfully, Outworld's army is so strong that this rarely ever happens, but it has, and we've seen it be very devastating for Outworld, particularly after its failed invasion of Earthrealm. Between conflicts, there will be extreme lows in the economy. Now, conflict happens often enough to where Outworld can just barely keep itself afloat when they're not happening, but it's still a rough patch in between any wars or tournaments. We also know from the existence of the Collector that taxes do exist and are very prevalent in Outworld, making this issue even worse. And then there are certain businesses and industries that are just completely neglected. Basically anything that isn't focused on military production will be scarce in Outworld, meaning certain needs like agriculture, infrastructure, health, and medicine are not met to the level they should be. Then we have Kotal. He would have a much more traditional economy that is based around sustainable development and traditional resources such as agriculture, infrastructure, and culture. Trades with other realms would also be a larger part of this economy, and we can see in MKX that locally owned marketplaces are much more common. Pros of this: wider variety of resources that are helpful to more diverse groups of people. This just means you'll have a lot more stable industries and sub-economies within Outworld rather than just one type of business and production dominating. Very supportive of all businesses. This means locally owned, corporate owned, and government owned businesses all have equal opportunity to thrive. And the economy is much more stable. You don't see those extreme lows anymore that you saw with Shao Kahn, and the poorest of Outworld is less poor. But with the absence of extreme lows also means the absence of those extreme highs, and that brings me to the cons. The economy is now very stagnant, and you won't see as much change up or down throughout Kotal's reign, meaning the abundance of resources gained during a merger no longer happen, since Kotal is not interested in that type of conquest. The military industries will see less development and funding. This means weaponry will not advance as quickly, and Kotal's army is just not as fierce as Shao Kahn's. This could be a problem for owners in that industry, and also people who felt safer with an economy that was more centered and focused around improving that military with a stronger army. And lastly, no more expansion. Kotal doesn't want to merge the realms, which means you no longer see that vast and diverse expansion of geography, dominance, and resources that you got from Shao Kahn. Now we move on to foreign affairs. In real life, this basically means the conflicts and interactions we have with other countries. So in place of countries, replace that with realms. For Shao Kahn, this is purely conquest. He aims to merge other realms into Outworld with no intention to create long-lasting alliances. Now he will make small alliances with realms such as the Netherrealm or even some organizations within Earthrealm such as the Black Dragon and Lin Kuei, but that's mostly out of fear and wanting to be on his good side. But we've seen how ruthless Shao Kahn is in his conquests. He's taken over Zetera, Vaeternus, the realm of the Oshtek, Edenia, all while already ruling over the native inhabitants of Outworld. The pros of this is that Outworld is seen as the most powerful and feared among the realms. It has a lot of influence. People know and shiver at the name Shao Kahn, and we've seen people like Shinnok will wait until Outworld is no longer a threat before proceeding with plans. Shao also has potentially the strongest posse of warriors in Mortal Kombat history. I mean, you have Ermac, Reptile, Baraka, Melina, the Shao Kahn, the Tarkatans, the Centaur, and a lot more, and that's not even counting the alliances he's made with other realms and their warriors. And then there's Shao himself. This dude is not only extremely physically powerful, I mean, he won Armageddon. He won Armageddon. Okay, well, there's a small technicality.
Alliances will be broken.
So yeah, by the time he came back from that, the battle was most likely already over, but still, he would have had to kill Onaga to come back from that. But he's also extremely intelligent and a master strategist. If he's paranoid that someone might double cross him, he'll get everything he can out of them and then dispose of them before they can even think to do anything. This is probably because he knows what they're thinking from being in their position before when he was successful in taking down Onaga. And my last pro is that Outworld's people are kept safe from invasion, rebellion, or any other immediate dangers. This is because people are just too scared to attempt anything, and even if they do, they usually just get absolutely squashed. Now the cons are obviously a war culture, which creates tension with other realms and among the people of Outworld who have to keep up with all the developments made and worry what could happen if they were to lose, which will dismantle everything. And yeah, basically what I just said. Failure is devastating to Outworld's reputation and it will immediately be seen as weakened and open the floodgates for attacks on not only its people but Shao Kahn himself, as we saw in Deadly Alliance, even though it was a decoy. And other realms are either enemies or future enemies. You don't really have any true friends here. You have realms like Edenia and Earthrealm, which are clearly just targets, but then realms like the Netherrealm do not intend to stay friends for long and will take advantage once your guard is down. As for Kotal, his approach is more toward diplomacy. He creates a more independent and less aggressive outworld. Interaction with other realms are through trades, treaties, and alliances, as we've seen primarily with Earthrealm, which was a longtime enemy of Outworld, proving that he is making significant progress. For the pros, alliances with other realms are genuine and long-lasting. You don't have as much waiting around for your guard to be down so that they can attack. You have loyal and genuine treaties with other realms that will fight by your side to protect your people. Outworld is also more secure long term. Because you're not making as many enemies, even in weakened states, you're less likely to get bombarded with attacks and invasion. And finally, Kotal is seen as a more intelligent and respectable ruler. Shao, despite not being this at all, is often seen as a savage, dumb brute, and that's because of how ruthless and crazy some of his tactics seem to be. For Kotal, because he is so thought out and composed in his approaches, he is often seen as a more careful and competent ruler. The cons are that Outworld and Kotal will be seen as weaker, and that's because they are. Let's be honest here. Kotal's army got destroyed by 4 fanfic OCs and were easily overthrown by a sliver of Shao Kahn's original army in MK11. Not to mention Kotal himself got bodied by Kung Jin, bodied by Jackie Briggs, bodied and outsmarted by Devora, bodied by Jade, and crippled by Shao Kahn himself.
Shao Kahn has crippled me.
KK in a wheelchair.
Oh, and also bodied by Shiva and killed by Shao. Now, is a lot of this bad writing?
Oh boy, yeah.
But still, it happened. Another con that kind of relates to the last one is that the army is a lot smaller and less reliable. Like I said, his warriors are a lot fewer in numbers and mostly consists of older, washed versions of Shao's original prime fighters. And with Kotal being a more personable and level-headed ruler, he is also much more criticized. You know how someone can be so crazy that you don't see many people criticize them or go against them because they either don't know what angle to take or they just know that whatever they say won't matter? That's kind of how it is with Shao Kahn. Whereas with Kotal, I mean, all you have to do is look at how the Mortal Kombat community has reacted to him. Another quick thing I want to note is that Kotal explicitly does not support the liberation of realms previously merged into Outworld by Shao Kahn. Important thing I wanted to know going forward, especially when thinking about certain groups such as the Edenians.
I will never forget those who freed Melina.
She vowed to create a free Edenia, something you refused to do.
A united Outworld stands strong against its enemies.
It will never be united under your rule.
Now on to justice and law. Shao looks for absolute obedience. Crime is seen as highly dishonorable and punishable by death or enslavement. Laws are centered around those in power, whereas acts against quote-unquote less valuable individuals are not punished. Basically, depending on social and economic status, those less fortunate will just have to deal with criminal acts because if it doesn't affect Shao Kahn or those in power around him directly, he just doesn't care, making lower class areas basically the purge. You can also expect a lot of censorship, forced tributes, and other loyalties, and a very harsh draft system that basically means you either fight for Outworld or you die. Or in other words, you die or you die. The pros of this include less spending resources on lesser cases. You won't have to go through the effort of monitoring and enforcing crimes on those who, in the grand scheme of things in Outworld, don't matter. People can also be controlled. Like I said, censorship would be very common, so those who criticize or publicly go against the beliefs and values of Shao will not get much steam before, you know, disappearing for 6 months and then coming back with some promotional video where they sing all the praises in the world for Shao Kahn and his version of Outworld. Or they just don't come back. The lower class is also hardened and strengthened by the fact that they face these hardships and have to pull themselves up and defend themselves. I want to say, especially for this one, that when I say pros and cons, that doesn't necessarily mean what I think. These are mostly just pros and cons from a certain angle, from a certain view that a lot of people do have. For example, there are people in the real world, obviously to not this extreme, but will say to people in less fortunate situations because of systemic issues, deal with it, that's life, that's the world, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make the most out of it, I guess. And that's not exactly my view of things. It's not that simple in my opinion, but there are people who think that way, and I want to represent all views in this hypothetical vote for a fictional realm with fictional characters because it's fun, I guess. I don't know. When it comes to cons, the people of Outworld are obviously very fearful and will resent authority. I mean, people in real life are fearful and hate the police because of the issues within that system, so just imagine how it'd be for the people of Outworld. The lower class face crimes that go unpunished, including murder. Yeah, murder, thefts, assaults, arson. I don't know why I thought of arson specifically. But all of those would just be dismissed. And for especially a crime like murder, you would have a lot of people feeling hopeless and empty because justice isn't being handed out fairly. And there's also a culture of disposability where death is just commonplace and culture is desensitized to it, or even giving opportunities for some to embrace or revel in it. People don't matter, and that creates an anarchic society. For Kotal, it's actually not as different as you may think. Harshness of crimes themselves are reduced, however the tradition of execution as punishment stays intact. Law enforcement is also no longer exclusive to higher class cases. This means that the bar for what is considered a crime will be lowered, so criticisms and alternate beliefs and values will no longer be illegal, and crimes against anyone is now punishable regardless of class. However, death is still the primary punishment even for petty crimes.
To take without his leave is to steal from the hand of Kotal Kahn himself. Therefore, having been found guilty of theft, you shall be put to death.
I was hungry.
Your sentence will be carried out immediately.
Pros of this: equality. I mean, yeah, everything is fair now because everyone has the exact same opportunity to die. People have more freedoms: freedom of speech, to practice culture and religion, the freedom of being able to feel safe. It's all great to create a more stable and flowing society. And traditionalists stay happy because the punishment stays the same and you get the same public executions you got with Shao Kahn. This will make them a little bit more likely to be open to other changes when most of the time they just want everything to stay the same. Cons are that death is still common, if not more so now, with equal enforcement across the board, and authority is still feared, and there's more authority to monitor more places, so that doesn't help. And you get more resistance. With crimes being less harshly enforced, you will get more people speaking up and trying to rebel against the system Kotal has in place. And generally, you will just have more people attempting more crimes, and they will have an easier time getting away with them. And then we get to races. This section is going to be a little different. We're going to go through each one of Outworld's many different races and species and discussing who they would lean towards in this hypothetical election and the benefits and hesitations they might get from each candidate. Starting with humans, or Outworlders, or Outworld humans, whatever you want to call them, I don't care. Will depend largely on class and geography. Much like our real world, humans are not just a hive mind that will think a certain way. We all have our differing opinions, and I think it would be no different in Outworld compared to some of these other races, which I feel, because of their more expansive histories with Shao Kahn and just being more animalistic in nature, would probably be more likely to think one way unanimously. Rich humans, or those who live in secluded areas, will most likely lean towards Shao. I think this makes sense. Rich humans are obvious. Shao is going to keep the people in power, and rich people will like that. And then people in secluded areas, I think that makes sense for them to want to kind of lean towards Shao, because people in those areas generally care a lot more about safety and foreign invasions and stuff like that. And I feel like Shao is probably better for that than Kotal, because he's more of a war guy. He's more of a battle strategist, and I feel like they'll think Shao Kahn is a bit more competent in that area and will probably lean towards him, and they won't be as affected with the economic issues as people in populated areas, or the crime issues as people in populated areas, which is why I think those types of people, or just poor people in general, will probably lean towards Kotal in this hypothetical vote. Then we have Tarkatans. This one's obvious. Would most certainly side with Shao Kahn. Sided with Mileena during the Outworld Civil War. Mileena is kind of, the heir to Shao Kahn, and if you're on her side, you're kind of on Shao's side. They're very loyal, even though they are very oppressed under Shao Kahn. The entire Tarkatan race is basically forced to become warriors for Shao Kahn. Like, I don't think they do anything else. But still, they are very loyal to Shao Kahn. That's kind of a part of their genetic makeup, I guess, is that they're very loyal to the person that is higher up above them, commanding them, kind of like dogs in a way or something. But the main issue here is that Kotal wiped out their race. And if you I don't know if can I say the G word on YouTube? If you eradicate an entire race, I don't think they're gonna want to vote for you. I mean, they're gonna be eradicated, but still, like, if they theoretically came back the way that they do in MK11, they're not gonna vote for you. So yeah, Tarkatans would side with Shao Kahn. And in a similar fashion, the Nakhnadans or Nakhnada, whatever you want to call them, they would side with Shao as well. We saw in MK11 that Kotal kind of put them out of their jobs. And that's obviously not good. Shao gave them jobs, which is important to their species and culture. That's their whole thing, is that they have this job that they do. And without that, they are completely lost without a purpose. And so I feel like they would definitely work better under Shao, and Kotal punishes them for their natural instincts and traditionalism, as we saw in MK11.
For years you escaped my justice, sucked dry the bounty of Outworld's people. Today, your debt is paid.
Kill me, Kotal, and you lose profit.
You mistake me for Shao Kahn. I do not inflict bandits upon the poor.
Shao Kahn approved. His word was law.
The Saurians, or the Zaterran race people, they're extinct. They would probably, if they existed, side with Kotal, because I think he would give them more opportunities to restore their race. He would care about them more, whereas Shao just kind of false promises it and then never actually does it. Then we got the Oshtek, obviously Kotal. Not really something I have to explain there. Devora, or not Devora, I mean the Kaitin, they probably won't care most likely. They're kind of in their own bubble. They don't really do anything. They're their own hive mind, but if I had to pick one, they would probably lean towards Kotal, since Shao Kahn has burned their hives in the past. But then again, they don't have a great relationship with Kotal either, with what happened with Devora and certain stuff in MK11 that happens. So yeah, they don't really have a good relationship with either of them. But if I had to lean towards one, probably Kotal. But yeah, we have seen during the Outworld Civil War, Devora was on Melina's side and then switched over to Kotal. So I'm going to say Kotal. Then Edenians. Edenians are interesting. They would largely be on the fence, I think, because neither of these candidates really are going to do what they want to have happen. They are heavily privileged under Shao. We've seen people like Jade be in extremely powerful positions. We can assume Tanya is in a super powerful position. Rain, is Rain even around in Outworld? I don't know if he is. He should be, because he's a Denian. But I'm assuming he's in a super powerful position as well. Obviously, Katana. Did I already mention Jade? All the Edenians are in super heavily privileged positions. Sindel as well, even though she's mind controlled, so wouldn't call that super privileged, but still in a high place of power. Shao conquered their realm though and killed their leader, so that's not great. Even if you put someone in a position of power, you killing their leader probably isn't great for them wanting to re-elect you or elect you in the first place. But Kotal refuses to free their realm. Like I said earlier with the liberation thing, it's a big plot point with Tanya and why she sides with Melina, that Kotal just refuses to free Edenia, which I guess Melina will do. So they wouldn't side with either. They'd probably rather pick someone like Melina. Vampires, or the Moroi, I don't know how to say that, but apparently that's what they're called in Mortal Kombat. They'd probably be similar to the Edenians. It's probably sort of the same thing of, oh, you conquered my realm, I want to be free. So they wouldn't really vote for either of them. Then we got the Shao Kahn. They would probably vote for Shao Kahn because they developed a beneficial relationship with him over the years, with Goro being the champion of Mortal Kombat for so long. And yeah, they just have a good relationship with Shao Kahn, and they haven't had good relationships with Kotal. Kotal had a bloody battle where he dismembered and humiliated their prince, so they're probably not going to like him very much. They're not going to vote for him. Obviously, they do come around, not to him, but to mostly katana in Mortal Kombat 11. But I guess that's progress in some way with Shiva and stuff. Then we got the Centaur. Centaur is probably going to be the same thing as the Shao Kahn. They've developed a beneficial relationship, but just the minor thing of them not having their leader be brutally murdered. That's good, I guess. That is good for Kotal, because maybe someone will vote for you. I don't know. And that's it. And that will do it. Who do you guys think would win this hypothetical election based on what I've talked about today? Let me know in the comments. For my 2 cents, I think Shao Kahn obviously has very crazy and harsh tactics, and day-to-day life would probably be worse under him, but he is very consistent. You know what you're going to get with him. He is disciplined, he is intelligent, and he is powerful. So if you want to know what you're going to get every day and not have to worry about any outside forces, then I think maybe Shao Kahn, those are the things you really prioritize. Maybe Shao Kahn will probably be the best candidate for you. Kotal, on the other hand, definitely has better ideas, and I like the way he goes about things a lot more, but he is less reliable and can be a bit of an idiot sometimes that jeopardizes certain situations. But to be fair, we have only seen him rule for 20 years or something like that, whereas Shao Kahn ruled for God knows how long. But yeah, definitely let me know who wins in the comments down below. And while you're down there, make sure to check out the links in the description to my merch store, Twitter, and Instagram. Also give this video a like to show your support, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to know when I next upload. And with that being said, that's it for this video, my fellow oddities. I'll see you next time.